Okay, we have ordinance revisions, so that's going to be Jonathan.
Correct.
And then are you doing stormwater?
Yeah, it should be stormwater. I forgot what their stormwater standard updates or something like that. I forgot what it was called.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, I think we're all set and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get us rolling here. Before I call the meeting to order, I do want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely by Zoom, and some are on site. All participants joining by phone, we ask that you mute your phone when you're not speaking so that we can avoid background noise. And during the meeting, make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak. I'm Commissioner Melissa Bynum. So that the public observing knows who's speaking. And this is critical given the number of remote participants. It's also our current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended. Unless otherwise required by law, the public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit their comments by email prior to the meeting. And those comments are included in the recording of our meeting. I'm going to call the meeting of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Roll call. Groneman.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Markley. Here. Bynum.
Here. We do have a new item, item 3, which will be a request to submit a grant to the EPA. And we do not have minutes to approve, so that takes us straight to the committee agenda. And we have 3 items tonight. Item 1 is an ordinance revisions to comply with the state and EPA guidelines regarding our pre-treatment programs. So I will ask Mr. Jonathan Wiles to present this to us, and you might start with telling us what our pre-treatment program means. Mr. Wiles.
This is Troy, County Engineer. I'll kick this off real quick. I don't know. Most of you may not have met Jonathan Wiles. He's a project manager in Public Works Engineering. So I'll give him a quick introduction, and he's the one in charge of our MS4 program. And he can tell you all the information you want to know about that. So I will turn it over to Jonathan right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy, and thank you, everyone. This is Jonathan Wiles, MS4 project manager, Public Works Stormwater. Let me share my screen. I trust everyone can see that.
Yes.
All right, so this is a presentation for the ordinance updates for Chapter 8, Articles 14 and 15. Really, the main purpose of this is to provide clarity from the previous ordinances. It helps us with our definitions, delineating responsibilities, and our tidying up enforcement. It also provides consistency with the EPA model ordinance, standardizes processes and assessments, and ensures we're meeting our federal and state stormwater requirements. So Chapter 8, Article 14 follows the revisions that are proposed follows the model EPA ordinance, delineating responsibilities between development community and the UG, provides clarification and expectations for the enforcement, and bridges a partnership with the developers to keep a development moving forward while still meeting all state and federal stormwater requirements. And then Article 15, once again, follows that model EPA ordinance, provides easement requirements to help with meeting federal and state stormwater requirements. It standardizes and formalizes the inspection and certification processes, provides further clarification between pre-construction and post-construction stormwater requirements, and adoption of the revised and updated APWA Mark BMP manual supports updating the design criteria for our stormwater treatment facilities and detention facilities. So with that, we're here for any questions. Misty, did you have anything to add to this?
Yes, this is Misty Brown, Counsel for the Unified Government. And so, Commissioners, I know this was a very large packet that was delivered. When we started going through these revisions to Chapter 8, and it looked basically all of the numbers changed. And when we were going through it, the red line was almost unreadable because there was so many additions and movements within the document. So we repealed everything and then redrafted it. And in some, it basically goes through, and not a lot has changed substantively, but we did include definitions that were going to be helpful and required with state and federal requirements, and then went in there and just provided a bit more meat to it. So in example, in one part of it, when you were going to get a land disturbance permit, we don't want any type of erosion activity to affect an adjacent property. So we included the word adjacent property in there to protect the properties around it, not just the streets and the storm drains. Other things that we did was we clarified that the engineer would have the authority, the county engineer would have the authority to enter property or to inspect. And that was implied in the last ordinance, but we made it very clear. And so throughout it, there's just a bunch of modifications, but the nuts and bolts of how it worked essentially stays the same. We just wanted it very clear and to follow best practices going forward. So it is dense. And if there are any specific questions, I know Jonathan, Troy, or I could address them.
Are there questions from the committee members? And has the clerk received any comments from the public?
No, we have,
Commissioner Bynum, this
sorry, we have
Commissioner
not.
Philbrook.
received any.
Real quick comment.
Sure.
So I noticed that you said that you put in something that directly affects or to give notice to folks that if they cause issues with erosion and so on, they're not only responsible to us, but they have a responsibility to their neighbors. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. One thing that we had put in there is if they did a land disturbance activity, they need to follow the best practices, even if a permit's not required. And then also anyone who is doing a land disturbance activity, they're also being expected to conduct it in a way that they don't affect their neighbors. So
Okay.
it's just noticing it causes a problem, and you all hear from it when the neighbors get dirt and gunk in their driveways or on their properties.
Okay. Well, thank you for putting that in, and that makes it a little bit more clear for folks. And I'm sure that we have folks out there that are really happy you did that. Thank you so much.
Well, that would be the engineering team. So
Whomever, the whole herd. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I believe I heard the clerk say that we had not received any public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments from our committee?
Markley, move to approve.
Is there a second?
Ramirez, second.
Thank you. And we have a motion and a second. So roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane, Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. Did we lose Commissioner Kane?
I'm back on an aye.
Thank you so much. Next item is item number 2, stormwater, and this is an update of our stormwater design criteria, and I think Troy Shaw is taking this.
Yes, let me share my screen.
Thank you.
All right, See that?
No, not yet.
Try that one.
No.
Oh, here we go. How about now?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, helps if I click the button. Okay, Troy Shaw, I'm county engineer. So the reason I'm bringing this to you is just kind of, it follows up with the ordinance that was just passed in MS4. So we are looking at updating our stormwater design criteria. So the reason we're doing this right now is it hasn't been done in at least 15 years. I think we've added a few little things over the time, but wholesale update hasn't happened. And updating or developing stormwater design criteria is part of the requirement for our MS4 permit by the state. So that's the big reason why we're doing it. I've included some other reasons on here that this will also impact, but I think the most important one is all the way at the bottom. We're trying to improve our community and what we do with stormwater. If you look at the pictures on the left, that's kind of an idea of some functioning stormwater BMPs and drainage facilities that also provide an amenity to the community as well as manage stormwater appropriately. So a quick update, what we're doing is we've identified we need to do an update. We've got a group of people that are working on this. We started studying what we need to do. And what we're looking at doing is adopting APWA 5600, which is the Kansas City Metro chapter of the American Public Works Association, has developed a set of stormwater design criteria. And we're looking at just adopting those. They're familiar with everybody else in the metro area. So that's what's being used in a lot of other places. We may have a couple minor changes to those to fit the city the way that we want it. But we're looking on an adoption of those. Once we come up with a consensus, we'll send it out for public review to developers and designers to get comment on. We'll approve it. And once we all agree upon what we're doing, we'll publish those documents. Hopefully later this summer is the plan. So real quick, here's our current design criteria and the MARC BMP manual that we reference now, which is the 2009 version. And the BMP manual is best management practices, and it is basically the retention ponds, the bioswales, the green infrastructure type of stuff that you see. And we're looking at updating to the APWA 5600, which is that top link at the bottom, and then the 2012 MARC BMP manual as well. So both of those documents are well-known metro-wide. We're just kind of getting up to speed with the rest of the metro. So that's really all I have. I just wanted to give you a quick update on that. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Troy, it's Melissa Bynum. I have a question. I have two questions. The first slide with the photograph in the upper right. I hate to ask, but is that a Wyandotte County location?
That is not.
Oh,
not
good.
currently.
Good. And then moving from the MARC document 09 to 12, is that the most current document there is?
Yes, the 12 is the most current one they have with that. And we're even looking at that one. Part of what we're going to provide as well is a preferred planting list that we're going to include with that. There's just plants that function a lot better with the UG soil and what we have and are able to be maintained easier and fit with what we do. So we're even looking at including a little more with that just to help us be consistent.
The design criteria, once you've got to a place where you're satisfied, is that coming to us? Does that need a commission vote, or will you just adopt it as policy?
I believe it can just be adopted as policy. I'd be glad to share it with you, give you all the information you need, but I believe it's just adopted as policy.
So how long do you think this process is going to take?
I'm anticipating we'll be ready to publish by the middle of the summer.
Oh, great. Okay, great.
We've been working on it already. So and like I said, we're adopting the APWA criteria already. So it's a well-established criteria. We're just going through and making sure we update other things within that fit our county.
And anyone else have questions for Mr. Shaw?
I raise my hand.
Mike or Commissioner King, go right ahead.
We're gonna adopt something without sharing it with the rest of the commissioners and without sharing it with the community?
Misty, do you have any, I'm not sure what the ordinance says about that. I believe it says it's the design standards fall under the county engineer. Misty, do you know?
Yes, Troy, Commissioner. So these are one of the standards that the ordinance regulates, responsibility to the county engineer to adopt standards for it. If I see that Jeff has logged on here, so I think Troy and the group had went and looked at the MARC ones and thought those would be the best standards to use for the metro area, and wanted to advise the commission that that's what they were going to move forward with. Jeff, have I left out
Yep.
anything?
Nope. Covered that well. The ordinance, it's been the case for some time, gives the county engineer discretion to adopt standards like APWA, like ASTO. There's a number of different standards that are regional and national, and so that's what.
Okay, so you're supposed to share it with the commission. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if we're supposed to, but we are. Just to let you know how we're doing this and what we're doing, and we'll keep you in the loop the whole way through.
But we're not the entire commission. We are just a small portion of it. We're half of it. And I would think that you'd want to share this with the other half as well.
Okay. We can,
Strikes me that perhaps maybe once budget adoption occurs, we can see more of this in detail in a special session. So
Well, and you can do it on three, so they just so they know.
that's true. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I'm not making a big deal. Let's just share it with the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm. And then question kind of following up on Commissioner Kane. I have to assume that folks familiar with working through our processes, developers and home builders and whatnot, are already versed in the storm drainage criteria that exists right now, and probably well aware that updates are regular and coming. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, one of the benefits of what we're planning on doing is, since we're looking at adopting mainly the APWA 5600, that criteria has been out for a while, and it's used by many other cities in the metro area. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's most of the developers and certainly the engineers that do the designing are very familiar with that criteria.
Yeah, standardizing how we do this helps the development community. When a city is unique in this way, it causes issues, and so that's largely what Troy is doing, is going through a comprehensive assessment of standards and updating those, and as much as possible standardizing those with the rest of the metro.
What other questions and comments from our committee do we have?
So it's more of a statement. This is Commissioner Philbrook. So Jeff, what I think I'm hearing is that you're saying that we're coming more in line with the rest of the metro area. So when a developer wants to come in, they're not having to recreate the wheel to come into Wyandotte County. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. Cities typically take that standard approach with APWA, MUTCD, ASTO, and other standards, and then they'll make exceptions that fit their community. And that's exactly what we're doing here.
So we're looking at that, and then we will adjust and tweak for our community. But overall, most of it's going to be pretty much in line with the rest of the metro area.
That's right. It'll make it much easier on the development community.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa Sieben, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I wanted to echo what Jeff and his team are saying. These are standards that have been out there, and sometime Troy is being kind. They've been out there a little while longer than sometime, but it is something important that will help be clearer when people work in Kansas City, Kansas, what the expectations are, because they're not changing from one location to another in the metro. The other thing I would say is Commissioner Kane's idea about on threes, I think, is a very good idea, because this is, again, something that impacts all of our neighborhoods, and especially as we see more infill happening, we're going to see it in other areas that aren't just in some of our greenfield sites. So.
Thank you very much. All right, are there other comments on this item? It is an information only item. And if not, then we will move to our last item on our agenda, which is the blue sheet. Melissa Sieben will present this, and she's going to tell us about an EPA grant opportunity.
Yeah, and Commissioner Bynum, thank you. I actually have Jonathan Gutierrez. He should be sitting out there, so if he can be promoted if he's not already in. He's our new solid waste manager for the unified government. So a few weeks ago, in the flurry of federal grants and dollars that were coming out, I noticed that our EPA Region 7 had once again started sending out its publication regarding grant opportunities. And knowing in the past that I've seen things that we would have qualified for or that might have been of interest to us, I was peeling through this with just pure excitement to see what was there. And we stumbled upon this Healthy, Resilient, Sustainable Materials Management Grant. And given that we have a lot of opportunity here to change up how we're handling our waste stream, I brought this to the attention of Jonathan. And Jonathan, I'm now going to hand it over to you. And he and I are working quickly with our outside consultant, Burns and Mac, to pull this together because it is due next Monday if you would like us to submit.
Yes, so let me introduce myself. I am Jonathan Gutierrez. I am the new solid waste manager here in the unified government.
Does that work, Jonathan?
Yes, that does. All right, if you would share your screen, that works for me. So like Melissa said, we came upon this grant opportunity through the EPA. Again, it is called the Healthy, Resilient, and Sustainable Materials Management Grant. Also, like Melissa said, this was basically introduced just this past month. And if we go to the next slide.
Yes, hold it 1 second. I have to get to the right slide. Forwarding. There you go, Jonathan.
There we go.
I got it.
So yes, so this is a few grant details for this particular grant. It is just through the EPA Region 7, which would include Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and Iowa. Also, like Melissa mentioned, it is due by May 3rd. So we are in the process of working on this and getting this application submitted. EPA grants 3 to 6 individual awards through this process, and the amount is anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000. And the projects themselves can actually last up to 2 years. Next slide.
Slide.
Yes, please. Okay, and a few more details. The grant awards are incrementally funded in fiscal years 2021 and 2022. And the one bullet point I want to emphasize the most is there is no match required for this grant. So there is no obligation from us to apply for this grant. Eligibility, eligible entities must submit an application, as it says here, demonstrating means to improve community health, resiliency, and sustainability through what the EPA refers to as some of their key pillars, which is reduction, reuse, and recycling. Next slide. What we have here is kind of a graph of our overall proposed project looking at 4 different areas. So first of all, we'd be looking at sustainability, developing a sustainable organics management system. And in that proposal, we would be looking at the feasibility of specifically looking at a UG-owned compost facility. And then we would look at integrating what we currently have as some multiple waste streams that are currently landfilled that would possibly be used in that compost facility. And then ultimately we propose that we'd evaluate how and where maybe possibly the compost could be used by residents, business, and departments. And the next slide will kind of reiterate some of that again, but with a few more specifics. So once again, our proposal would be develop a sustainable organics management system. Those waste streams specifically that we'd be looking at that are currently landfilled do include like our biosolids or sludge from our wastewater treatment plants, tree and yard debris, That would include those that we collect at our current recycling center, and then also the potential food waste that's generated. The feasibility study about a UG-owned compost facility, again, would look at those specific waste streams and how we could potentially capture that into use at a compost facility. And then
I do want to
again,
note this
yep.
would be county-wide because the work here is a county-wide work with the solid waste function. So just clarify that everybody would benefit if we were able to do this.
Yes, and that would be part of our study as well as on the evaluation. And then the last couple of bullet points on our actual summary that we would put into our application, we'd be looking at planning level capital, the operating budget for development of a proposed facility and a site evaluation. And then we would definitely include stakeholder engagement and potentially some exploration of some public and private partnerships if we were to look into this project. And then the last slide, this is basically what we would spell out to the EPA as the outcomes that we look at for application for this grant. Again, evaluating sustainability, where we're using potentially waste streams that might be going to landfill for another use. A byproduct would be obviously potentially creating some nutrient-rich soil that could be used. We would also be demonstrating that we could potentially be reducing methane gas production for in the landfills itself if we were using those waste streams for another purpose. And then ultimately some of the resources that could be saved. So,
yeah. And so what's exciting here is there's a lot of interplay that can be had with this grant within our waste stream within the county, but also potential beyond that. So it's going to be exciting to see what we can learn if we're able to study this with the EPA grant.
Thank you very much. I see Commissioner Ramirez has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bynum. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Jonathan, for the presentation. I'm in support of this. This is a good opportunity for us to be more sustainable, more sustainable for our community. I just one question more so on process. After tonight, is this item going to be fast tracked to Thursday's meeting?
I'm going to let Misty handle that.
Well, I think that's a good question, Commissioner.
But the reason I asked that question is because, you know, this is approval to apply, permission to apply. And as Commissioner Kane had indicated earlier, we're only half the body. And I think if we're going to apply for a grant, we should have approval from the entire governing body. So that's why I asked the question if this was going to be fast tracked for Thursday, since the deadline is next week to apply.
Well, I think you caught something, Commissioner. It definitely does need to be fast tracked so that it could go in front of the full governing body this week. So
and typically we don't get a lot of notice, so we do the best we can with these. Oftentimes you're hearing about them after the due date. These things never have a long period of time. So yes, we would want to do that, and we want to be able to move forward if that's the deference of the governing body.
No, of course, and I know, and it is always hard to keep up with all the deadlines and everything, especially with so many grants out there. So no, I completely agree. That was just my question about the process of it.
well, Commissioner, this is Misty again. I appreciate the question. I think in our rush to get it to standing committee, we didn't think about the fast tracking. So if the commission wishes to proceed, including a motion to fast track would be appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Question on the process. Obviously, I support applying for the grant. And then I see that one of the items is, you know, the possibility of creating a sort of a composting operation that help me understand, first of all, would it be composting on the part of unified government, city of KCK, or would it be community, available to the community, or both?
Jonathan, help me here, but I'll say that what we're looking at is exploring this. and what makes most sense. Certainly, we're looking at it in the broadest sense of use for the compost, community, parks and rec, other folks, but we're also looking at how a public-private partnership might help. So do we take on all of the role of it, or is there a private partner that would want to work with us on this? So I think that's what this is going to look at, is what is that kind of innovative approach to being able to meet the kind of offsets and sustainability that the EPA is looking for, and that ultimately provides a cost savings to our residents and businesses in KCK and Wyandotte County.
Yeah, I think Melissa, exactly what she described, that what we're looking at is to apply for the EPA grant to see and look into any and all opportunities. And like Melissa said, that's a possibility for a private-public partnership. Essentially, at this point in time, we are just providing and putting the information together on what we would like to see and propose in our application process.
Thank you. It's Commissioner Bynum. So I'm going to think positive and talk as if we're going to receive the grant and say that I'm sure that what I was going to say was incredible. It has escaped me. I guess I was thinking along the lines of, as we make our way through our budget and our CMIP needs, we talk about having too much inventory. And so once we receive the grant and we're beginning to discuss what a composting operation would look like, then I think we have to stay mindful of the fact that we already talk as if we own too much stuff. And so, you know, we just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, Commissioner, this is Melissa Sieben again, and I think Jeff Fisher is popping on here because we are all very mindful of exactly what you're talking about. And I think part of what we're looking at is using existing location that we have, co-locating some stuff in a location that would be accessible to the entire community. So we don't see this as adding necessarily more land or facilities per se to our docket, rather reusing stuff. But Jeff, go ahead.
No, I was just going to thank the Commissioner for that reminder. It is definitely something we want to be sensitive to. I was just going to say too, this is very much in line with the large biosolids project. We have a call point treatment plant. This is in line with a vision that we've had for that project, and feeding the Parks Department with compost and diverting waste at the same time. I would think it's a worthwhile venture, and the grant would be very helpful in helping us determine that.
And this is Melissa Sieben again, and this is the best of productive reuse if we can get there.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. Are there other questions, comments, or a motion that would include a fast track, please?
Markley, move to approve and fast track to Thursday's meeting.
Ramirez, second.
Thank you so much. And roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. Thank you all very much. That concludes Public Works and Safety for this evening. We are adjourned in that fashion. And I'm handing our meeting over to Commissioner Markley for Administration and Human Services. Thank you all. And thank you, Mr. Groneman.
You're very welcome. Have a nice evening.
You too. All right. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Markley.
Here, thank you. Under revisions, we do have one new item, item number 2, which is an acknowledgement of a grant awarded to our health department. Always good news. Our first order of business is the minutes from our December 14th meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval, Bynum.
Kane, second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, thank you. Those minutes have been approved. That takes us to committee agenda item 1, Workday Enterprise. It is an overview of our Workday Enterprise Resource Planning System. That's a mouthful. And we have Alan House, Crystal Sprague, Kathleen is with us, Renee is with us. We got a whole crowd of presenters. So I don't know who is taking it first. I will pass it off to whoever is first up. Alan raised his hand. He has volunteered himself.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. Alan Howes, Assistant County Administrator. And we're coming before you this evening to give you the first of what will be regular updates to the Commission on the status of the Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP project, which was approved by the Commission in the last budget cycle and represents one of the largest technology investments that the UG has made, and something that will touch all UG departments. I'm joined this evening for the update by Kathleen Von Atchen, our CFO, Renee Ramirez, our Director of HR, and Crystal Sprague, who is the project manager for the ERP project. So the good news and the top line is the project is on time. It is running smoothly. We have an engaged and excited group of folks who are working on this and working very hard on it, and see the potential that is coming from this. So we have, since this project started last November, stood up a dedicated project team. Crystal Sprague, who many on this committee are familiar with from her work on the CARES team, transitioned from that CARES role over to be the project manager for this, and is leading that effort now. So we'll go quickly to a little bit of project background here. So our current financial system was acquired prior to 1997. Our human resources systems use sort of outdated database technology and are not integrated with our financial system. So those two operate right now independently of each other. And so several years ago, HR, finance, and procurement were all independently looking at how can they improve their systems and their workflows. And so those efforts really came together, and we developed a team that worked cross-functionally and developed the requirements and looked at a whole bunch of different products that are in the marketplace, and came back with their recommendations. And then we saw, as over the last year, again, the need for modern technology that allows us to work remotely and to be dynamic in terms of how we adjust to the needs of the workforce and to the external environment. So we did over 70 demos, and we selected a solution called Workday. So why did we choose Workday? Well, it's one of the best in breed in this software called ERP, which is this combined financial and HR software systems. It's kind of the workhorse, if you will, core software system that that organizations use to run their back of house operations. Workday is a cloud-based technology solution. It was built for the cloud. It aligns with our UG technology strategy. It provides increased data security and backup recovery capabilities. It is dynamic and flexible, so it will be what we need today, and it will adjust for what we need in 5 years. And it really takes financial and HR information and puts it together in a way that it can be used to make better decisions, to make processes easier for employees, for managers, and to make that data, as I said, contextual and actionable. And this will have benefits across entire ranges of areas of our organization. And it will allow us to connect lots of our other systems that we use in different departments in different contexts. For example, our employee benefits will allow us to connect to United Healthcare and do our signups, and our information will be able to transmit between those two systems without having to be keyed in by a human. And it's really a strong change management process, which means that when you think about technology, technology lives and dies on the people who utilize it, and whether they trust it and whether they believe in it. And so there's a lot of emphasis in this project on communicating with the organization and understanding the processes that are embedded within the software itself. And part of that communication is to the commission, and to make sure that you all are aware of this project as it's going forward. So with that, I'm going to transition it over to Kathleen Von Atchen, the CFO.
Well, terrific. Actually, I wasn't aware I had a slide, so they were, but that's fine. I'll move forward here. So what does Workday have for us? So all of these here that you see are a variety of the various modules that we have acquired with this subscription for this project. And so we're currently moving forward with implementation of those. And Crystal's going to talk about the timing. For the most part, we've in the past say 4 or 5 months been focusing on the human capital or HR portion, and finance will be moving forward with their part of the implementation in the coming month or two. But so we have a human resources management, benefits management, recruiting, payroll, timekeeping, accounting, financial reporting, procurement, grants management, budgeting, providing better historic data, and then managing our RFP process through the vendor management. So a whole variety of functions. It spans the entire scope of all of our administrative bureaucratic activities, and we're really excited about implementing this because we are absolutely convinced that it's going to save our organization money year over year. So go to the next slide. I think, do I have this slide?
Yes, you do, Kathleen. And then
okay.
Renee.
Yes. So, right. So what we did was we set up a project team, and in order to proceed with this integration, and we started out, of course, with Doug on the top, and then the three of us as the executive team, which are overseeing all of the projects. And there's a governance that is in line with so that any kind of questions throughout the implementation process will filter through the teams up to the three of us as the executive, with Alan, myself, and Renee Ramirez. And under that, then we have an HCM, or a human capital management functional team. We have, which is largely many of the staff that in Renee's camp. We have the finance functional team. And then as well, then we have included other team members to ensure that the success of the implementation, including data integration, team members from our technology department, data migration, so that we can make sure that all of the software packages that currently exist throughout our various departments talk well with our Workday product. Then all of the team members will basically be part of the testing that will is planned to take place later on in the year. And as well, which is very important, is the change management and training team. So all of these functions are going to require a revamp of how we do business, and that's where that change management comes in. And of course, we'll be training not only our own staff in HR and finance, but all of the departments that perform administrative functions on our behalf. So all of this is being managed by an ERP team, project team, which is being led by Crystal Sprague and Gail Jones. Gail Jones is out of our department. Did I miss any points? I think what don't we pass this on to Renee, or is that all right?
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. Well, I'm excited to be able to speak about the project vision. The team basically met and we developed this vision for how we wanted to go through this project here. As you see, our vision, we have 3 bullet points. And the first, using Workday, we want to be a high-performing organization, achieving our operational excellence within all departments. And one of the questions that we continue to ask ourselves is what is meant by being a high-performing organization? Because many organizations want to be recognized as an HPO organization. And really what that boils down to is it's just a concept that embraces employee involvement in decision-making, because we want our employees to have a voice. They are the ones on the front lines working through these processes. It helps us to be more efficient in our workplace procedures, and it represents the core values that we have, like performance excellence, being innovative, having the highest integrity, and excellence in our customer service. The next is we will empower our people to act more strategically and make focused decisions by leveraging real-time data. This is an opportunity for us as an organization to not work in silos, but to have that opportunity to cross over into other areas and have the sharing of information to help us make these decisions. It's giving our employees a voice, giving them the autonomy over their own work assignments, using data to assist us with making those decisions. And the best thing ever is moving away from all those manual processes that we have been challenged with over the years. And the last is the unified government will become a premier employer in the region. The Workday product is, not being utilized at many workplaces within our region here. We are one of those that are going to be proud to have Workday as our operating system, and being parallel to the University of KU, the hospital. So I think that's a real good opportunity for us to rebrand our organization as a premier employer, so that way we can attract and retain top talent. The next slide that we have here is the Unified Government project goals. These goals were set at the commencement of the project with input from our executive sponsors. We had project leads and subject matter experts, and we built these around the pillars of success. The pillars of success are given to us by Accenture, which is our implementation partner. And those pillars of success are, embracing change and how we're going to embrace change. The rolling adoption, which is really our blueprint on how we're going to go through this project, and the engagement, how we're going to get everybody involved. And so, as you can see here, the project goals reach many different areas. Our operations, which we want to enhance our operational efficiencies by reducing manual efforts and systems. So many of us have been doing manual processes by maintaining access databases, using Excel spreadsheets. Our connections provide opportunities for departments and individuals to collaborate as one team. That is one of the most things that we want to come out of this project, is that, in 1997, when we consolidated, we were supposed to be one team, but a lot of times we're still viewed as the city and the county. This gives us an opportunity to function and really operate as one team, as the unified government team. Our methods will improve our resource managements through access to real-time information and Workday tools. Our culture, we want to cultivate an environment which empowers people to be more strategic in their work and their decisions. And then to our citizens, we want to exemplify excellence in every transaction with our constituents and our stakeholders. Our value and our people become a premier employer in the metro region. And then our assurances, we want to make sure that the technologies that we have, that we're implementing framework that promotes information security and fraud prevention. So that way we don't have any of those loopholes, that today are at risk for us.
Thanks, Renee, for going over those. It's our process to work with Accenture to put this piece of technology at the fingertips of our UG employees. Our implementation partner that Renee mentioned, Accenture, utilizes a strategic process for best results. This process starts well in advance of the Workday product implementation. The process is unique to Accenture and was a deciding factor in the selection of Accenture to assist us. Each subject matter that will be transported into the Workday product and the functional teams that will lead the charge to put that information in Workday and utilize Workday have participated in this rigorous and very thorough process and procedure to ensure the best end results that we could have. The process for each functional area starts with something called a business process alignment. It's a review of all the business processes in the subject matter and how they intersect. So we're not talking about technology at this point, we're talking about our internal business processes. We are challenged to identify areas where there is deviation in practice among different divisions and departments, to make functional areas accountable for leading a cross-functional solution, meaning that no matter what department or division that you are in, the business process alignment challenges those departments to have discussion and conversation that they might not have had up to this point. And it challenges the thinking of that's the way we've always done it. And that is probably the biggest challenge at the beginning of the business process alignment, to not only say, well, why are we doing it this way, but not be satisfied with because we've always done it that way. The next piece in the implementation process is the architecture phase, and this starts the knowledge transfer between the UG leads, and these are identified roles within the project team, through training and design of the business practices in the technology. So now we're taking those areas of alignment and we're actually putting them into our platform. It also gives us an opportunity in the architect stage to load our data. So Renee mentioned that we have access databases and we have standalone databases. It gives us an opportunity to take the time to look at that information and load it and migrate it into the Workday platform in a way that we can make sure that there's some efficacy in that data that we are loading in. The next stage is called configuration, and that's when our implementation partners are taking that design knowledge and handing it to our leads so that a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now, our leads and our departments know how to redesign business practices as the technology improves and we get updates to the technology, and as our business practices improve. We also continue high-level training and additional layered data loads. Then we go through a very vigorous testing process where we are still doing training, we are still doing change management, but we're doing some high-level training, testing, as well as cross-functional testing to make sure that it's not just right for payroll, but it's right for payroll, it's right for HR, it's right for finance, and it's right for the employee. All the way through this process, we have a layered team approach to looking across the organization and not just in one area or another. Each one of these implementation processes for the functional areas could be layered on top of one another or could be happening in a standalone form. But at the end of the day, we all come together and say, what about your business process intersects with mine? And here's a view of the same type of timeline, but just spread out on the calendar. You'll see that our go live date is not until July of 2022. That sounds like, I know it sounds like a long time away. For us in the project team, we can't wait for that day to get here. So we started back in November. We're a few months in, right at the 6-month part. We've really focused on human capital management and payroll at the front end of the project. And now we're moving into a high focus on the finance part. All the way through, we're doing change management, business process alignment, and challenging ourselves in our thinking, not just putting a piece of equipment into play. So along that same lines, we talk about process change and what it looks like to redesign a system and deploy a new technology. But a new technology and deploying a new system is not an answer in and of itself. It's important to remember that any technology that we put into place has people at each one of those intersection sites. They drive those processes that we have illuminated or changed. So it's important that we get this organization ready for change. We gauge the change readiness of the organization, and then we move forward accordingly. So very early on in the process, we did something called a PAC assessment. It was to gauge the readiness of change for the organization. During that process, we asked questions about what works well with implementations, what doesn't, how ready are you for change, how comfortable are you with, for example, doing your time entry in a different methodology. And that gave us a really good starting point for moving the organization through this change process. Other examples would be that you have over 40 cross-functional team members involved in the process today and in the implementation today. And it is our goal that 95% or more of all employees are involved at some level in the project, whether it be as a training participant, a change ambassador, a functional lead, part of an advisory board, a tester, or they're attending informational sessions. We spoke about the evaluation of our business practices in human capital management and other functional areas, but this project is also challenging us to evaluate how we as an organization handle change, how we share the power to make decisions, how we communicate that change to individuals, how we get employees involved in the change at an ownership level, not because we said so, but because they are involved in that process, that we do more than just train and walk away. I don't know how many of you out there have gone to a training, left the training, and 3 or 4 weeks later, you can't remember how to do that one piece in the technology to get to where you want to go. This is really challenging our organization to think of training as a lifelong education within the unified government of how to use technology effectively within our departments. It's challenging us to change and evolve with technology, which moves at a very fast pace. Usually when we're changing a paper practice, there's a slower pace to that evolution. Now that we're adopting a high functioning piece of technology, we are challenged to address our deficits in being able to manage that change as fast as it comes. And understanding the intersections with other entities. Kathleen talked a little bit about how we intersect with benefits, for example. It's really challenging us to think about how we intersect in a data-driven way with those other technologies, like banking institutions in the state of Kansas. And to understand our intersections within ourselves, how our job is affected by someone upstream and how our job affects people downstream from us, that this product will drive us into being able to have a direct line of sight into the workflow before and after it gets to my desk or my computer screen. HR and payroll have been the first areas to experience the BPA process or business process alignment phase of the project. And Renee is going to share a little bit about what she's learned in her experiences so far.
Thank you, Crystal. So yes, HR and payroll have been in this rethinking and aligning our business strategies as we've been working with Accenture. This was an opportunity for us to really examine what our processes look like. I mean, from the very start of when we get something to how we finish it. You know, through this process, we are actually learning, you know, even though we work closely with payroll and payroll works closely with HR, we are really learning our why. Why do we do certain things a certain way? And really challenging ourselves to really come outside of that box to come up with different processes since, you know, we've been really utilizing manual processes. One example of that is like retro pay. When we're having to do retro pay for an individual because maybe an increase on the yellow personnel action notice didn't hit my desk to get signed off on in time, and Alan didn't get it because, you know, all these delays were happening. So that causes payroll to have to do retro pay on that individual, or possibly a union contract where we finally got an agreement and now we have to go back and calculate the retro pay for that. All of those things were manual processes. So really understanding, how we can change that, how we can make things better for us. We had to examine again, we were using so many Excel spreadsheets and databases, and really nothing was talking to each other. So when we were asked to produce some kind of report for county administration, several of us were literally getting our highlighters out, highlighting spreadsheets, counting, doing things of that nature. So, which made it difficult and made it, there was human error sometimes, because you're having to recalculate and different people are coming up with different totals. This also gave us an opportunity to really identify what has been our system of record. Is it the Access database? Is it the Kayenta system? And then we had to agree on what the system of record was going to be as we went forward. But again, just that opportunity to list everything for HR and payroll and finance. And finance will be going through more detail. But what that looked like for us, we have spent countless hours, literally every day, working on these processes. Then we had the process alignment and standardization. This gave us an opportunity to see how many different areas, how people were doing the same thing, but different ways in different departments. What policies are we going to have to change if we're going to change a process the way Workday is having us think differently? So through these processes and these alignments, there will be a standardization across the organization on how we do things. For example, how we all report time. You have some departments using an Excel spreadsheet. You have some departments uploading into the payroll system. You have some departments using time clocks. This is an opportunity now for us to be consistent throughout the organization. One of the things that we're really proud of is that we're going to be able to have an actual onboarding process for our employees. That way, every employee coming through the unified government will be onboarded the same way. There are a lot of different areas that this process alignment and standardization, covers. And as Crystal listed there's like 156 of those. And so those are all in areas of recruitment, talent and performance, LMS, which is the learning management system, which we've never had, timekeeping, absence. So it's really taking a deep dive into how we do business and how we're going to do business better and differently than we're sitting today. Configuration outside of the Workday standard, those are things that are unique to the unified government. And that is where we're kind of challenging ourselves. Most of the things are going to be configured and be standardized using the Workday platform. But there are still some things that are kind of unique to the unified government. So we really need to kind of look at those things and see, while they are unique to the UG, how can we think differently and still have them work within the platform? So those are some things that we're still working on. The Workday brainstorm. This is an opportunity. We all of us that are in this project have access to what's called Workday Community. Workday Community is an opportunity for us to have networking opportunities with other Workday clients. So it's kind of that chance for us to have a wish list. If there is something that Workday doesn't cover for us, we can talk to other clients of Workday and see if they have similar situations, and possibly then we meet and discuss, and Workday puts it on a roadmap for potentially adding that at a later date. So that is a real good opportunity to have those or discuss the wish list and have networking opportunities with other Workday clients.
Thanks, Renee. So we've had some early successes. Even though we're only a few months into the project, we're already seeing results, and we have 14 months to go before we go live. What we're really proud of at this point, as Renee says, that we have devoted resources to this implementation and the culture change that it is going to require. It's like no other piece of technology that I've seen put in here at the unified government. We really have a huge team that is working to put this massive piece of technology in, but moreover, change our culture. We've got cross-functional dialogue where they really talk about their business processes and they're given time to do it. Many times our different divisions or departments think about what is working for their department. They're able to fix what's not working for their department, but this focuses that time not just within that department, but across the organization, and to solve that issue and taking the time to evaluate it top to bottom. It gives us an opportunity, and we've set some really good measurable goals. I will not go into all of them, but one of the fastest ones that we came up with for a measurable goal involved the HR onboarding process with benefits. Today, that process for a new employee is upwards of 200 sheets of paper. So that includes your benefits, your policies, all the information about training, and all the various pieces to get your ID badge, to understand where the locations are in the building. That it will be condensed by more than 99% and will be electronic and able for employees, new employees, to do even before they walk in the door on the very first day. So that is a measurable goal that we were able to establish, one of many that we'll be bringing back and communicating across the organization and to the commission as well. It gives us time to think about training as an education and not just a training. And in today's environment, where so often in the past we've been focused on standalone databases, we have a platform that's going to interact with us now, and in the future, it can evolve with us as we move without individual platforms being spread out within the organization. And we're considering those changes up front and thinking about how we're integrating up front instead of responding, oh, you know what, I bet it would be a good idea to integrate with the bank. We're thinking about and identifying those integrations up front and having those discussions now instead of second or last. So lastly, I know you've heard the excitement in our voices, and these quotes came from our PAC assessment. I think they really sum up a lot about how our employees are feeling about this implementation. I feel so many processes are outdated. We're ready for this. It's about time. So that excitement is catching and growing around the organization. But if we had some messages to leave you with today, we would say this. This is an amazing product. It is the top of the line, best of breed. As Mr. House says, it's an amazing product. But the story is not about the amazing product. It's about the amazing commitment to success to this project by administration and staff alike. This is a labor-intensive process that is taking people away from their daily work, but staff is devoted to this project and they're devoted to the success of this project. Our team across the unified government wants to spend their time making progress, not shackled to old, unreliable technology, and even worse, shackled to moving paper physically from one office to another that slows down the process for our citizens and for our employees. They want to save time and money that it costs to do those manual processes. They want to minimize error, and they want time to improve their citizen service, not improve their service delivery of a piece of paper around an office building. They're ready. They're excited. We need this, as one of the respondents to the PAC assessment said, and they need it to be able to do their job and do it well for the citizens of Wyandotte County. We're well on our way to this implementation. We're going to have this amazing product on board, but moreover, we're going to grow and already have started growing as an organization to mature into where people want to work and where people want to interact with our government agencies. And change is the message of the day. We'll continue to keep the commission apprised of the progress through this forum and through other platforms. And with that, commissioners, if you have any questions for us, we've appreciated your patience as we've tried to tell you all about an 18-month project in 20 minutes.
Thank you, Crystal. You know, I think it's easy when we see something like this as a budget item to just see it as we're buying some software, but I appreciate the presentation and how it really brings home the fact that this is really just a spur for a massive cultural change internally and for us to look at a lot of our processes and improve them. So it is a software item. It is something that we're purchasing, but it's a lot more than that. And I think staff brought that home to us. Commissioners, do you have questions? All right, this item is for information only, so it is not a voting item, and we will look forward to future updates on progress. Thank you, team. All right, committee, we do have one last item, and it is the acknowledgement of a grant awarded to our health department. And I don't see him, but I see Wes, so I think perhaps he is joining us in her stead to present on this item. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm delighted to present on this. I'll keep it short and sweet for you all. The health department staff took the initiative to reach out to the Marion Block Foundation over in Casey Mo to see if they would be interested in supporting our vaccination effort. And they agreed to a meeting, and we spoke with them, and they were very interested in supporting our outreach, especially to vaccine hesitant populations in our county, which is one of the major priorities that we're working on right now. Reaching people who were not early adopters, who maybe have a couple questions, but who we still need to get vaccinated in order to reach that herd immunity number that we'd like to get to. And they asked for some ideas. We sent an application in, and they granted us an award of $200,000. And we were very pleased about that. And most of the money will be utilized for incentives. That's something that we're experimenting with. And it will be utilized for some community outreach workers in the community to potentially go door to door, and other ways that we can engage, especially residents and neighborhoods, which have been a bit more difficult to reach. So, and there is no match required.
Lovely. You know, we were talking earlier in our public works meeting about these grant opportunities that come in so quickly that we just kind of throw ourselves at them, and they come in between meetings. So this is an example of one where it came into our existence and happened all in advance of us hearing about it. But we are never sad to hear about grants coming into the unified government for our services. So that's excellent news. Any questions for Mr. McCain? All right, thank you very much. And that concludes our meeting for this evening. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.